Welcome back to another episode of Wine Whine, Real Estate Uncorked. I'm Nicolette.
I'm Quincy.
So Quincy, Dad, what do you see in the market right now?
It's a great question. It's an interesting time. This is spring, and this is typically when people start seeing the spring selling season, although in California or Bay Area, we don't really have a spring selling season. But there is additional inventory coming in the market. Still not enough to satisfy the buyer's thirst for homes in our valley. Buyers exceed sellers in demand, so there's less inventory still. Price appreciation continues to move in spite of interest rates not moving very much lower.
And a little flux in the stock market lately.
Yeah, and it's the biggest surprise is that stock market piece is probably going to be the biggest thing that impacts what's going on around us. Although it rebounded, the next week, and it's rebounding again, that's probably going to be the biggest impact. But inventory is strong. Still not enough homes,
yep.
And buyer demand is strong.
Right. Yeah, I just had an open house and it was packed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Property price homes will do that. We're diving into something that impacts about every homeowner. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or you're thinking about retiring or planning to pass your home on to your children, this impacts everybody.
That's right. We're talking about property taxes, Prop 19, and the big choices facing homeowners in 2025. So whether that be downsizing in retirement, transferring homes to the next generation, and avoiding those big tax surprises. So let's jump on in.
Certainly. So in California, the property tax is based at 1% plus any 1% of the value of your home, your assessed value of your home, plus any local taxes. Like in Santa Clara County, it comes out to 1.25%.
Right.
So,
and there are some specific neighborhoods, areas that have some special assessment type of things, the Melrose type of stuff.
Melrose,
yeah.
But that's a whole other topic besides property taxes. That's built on the infrastructure improvements that are spread around all the homeowners. So
right, but it's in checking when you're purchasing a property.
Absolutely,
that is part of the property taxes,
especially in newer developments.
Right. So thanks to Prop 13, your tax base is based on the purchase price, and it can only increase up to 2%, right?
Annually, correct. It can not exceed 2%, and that's what Prop 13 is all about. And by the way, everybody has Prop 13. I don't care when you bought your home since whenever it came into effect till today, you get Prop 13 rights. Your property taxes cannot increase by more than 2% annually.
What are some things that do trigger the increase in property taxes?
Well, an increase in property tax would be when you sell the home, it gets reassessed.
Right.
The next person has the new assessed value. And then, of course, if the property is inherited, Prop 19 kicks into play, which we're going to discuss here shortly about how those property taxes are assessed. If sometimes people will think about adding a person to title, and that could create a reassessment,
right?
Because you're adding another person that could reassess the property and charge you even transfer taxes and everything else to bring a person on title. It's not as simple as I want to deed my property to my son, for example.
Right.
If you go off title, that's a different as a parent-child transfer, and we'll talk about that.
Okay. But in a standard purchase of a new home, the property is reassessed based on the purchase price that the buyer purchased the property for, and the reassessed value is the tax basis moving forward.
Correct.
And I think one of the things that we really try to emphasize with our clients is that there is a delay in the time that you're going to get the reassessed bill.
That's right.
And so I think part of this podcast is really, again, pushing that we don't want surprises for anyone.
Right. A reassessment for trying to figure out what that is. So somebody buys a house for $450,000. That's their tax basis is based on that, property tax basis. And you buy it for $1 million for easy figuring.
Right.
The owner's property tax before you sold it to you is what you're paying your prorated taxes on when you close.
Right.
So you're paying on their property tax base. And then the county says, oh, this property sold for $1 million. Now I'm going to send you a bill for the difference at 1.25% here in Santa Clara County for the new supplemental tax, it's called. So. And
if the taxes are not impounded within the loan, then the reminder always is taxes are due November 1st, delinquent December 10th, perfect timing within the year, right before Christmas. And then the second is due February 1st and delinquent after May 10th.
Right.
So definitely make sure you're marking those dates if you are not having them impounded and paying them on a monthly basis within your financing.
And it's a 10% penalty for being late.
It is.
So it's
and that's a pretty steep amount.
Stiff, especially with property values here.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into a hot topic that we work with quite often, which is Prop 19 and retirement downsizing. So one of the most impactful parts of Prop 19 is for folks of 55 age and older, disabled, or victims of natural disasters. It allows them to transfer their low tax base up to 3 times anywhere in the state of California.
And that's the change from previously where you could only do it in counties that agreed to reciprocate for property tax
Right.
transfer.
It used to be like 5 counties, right?
And you could only do it once.
Right. So now you can do it up to 3 times.
That's right. So if you're, retiring, going to downsize, or what I call right size, get your large family home and go find yourself something simpler to live in, and you are going to jump into a new home, and your property tax base on your own home would be able to brought forward to it. Now, you could buy anything you want. You could buy more than what your property values tax base is currently right now. So if let's just pretend your property was at $1 million and you went and bought $1.5 million, you're going to bring $1 million worth of assessed value with you, or whatever your assessment is.
Right.
And then everything you buy over that amount, you have to pay the new tax on. So it's an additional
2 years to do that, correct?
You have 2 years in which you can make your change. And first of all, in the first year, if you wait 1 year, you could go up 5% in value. And if you go to the full 2 years, you can go up 2% in value over what you bought, over what you sold. So you have an adjustment based on inflation. Actually, I'm thinking about appreciation. But if you buy under what you sold for, your property tax base comes with you. So you have that low top property tax base, which is it's advantageous, especially in retirement or, get downsizing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big things that I had heard about or read about is that people think that it's an automatic filing, which it's not.
That's correct.
It is something that you have to file for to transfer the tax base.
That's correct. And one of the things that we make sure, we actually download the form and get it to you when you're doing this downsizing, to make sure you have the property, the one you're selling with the parcel number on it, the one you're buying, if we're helping you with that as well, with the parcel number on it. So then all you have to do is sign it and mail it in. We make sure that gets done so you take advantage of that low tax base.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into the other major part, Prop 19, and how it's changed the rules for inheriting property. So before Prop 19, parents could pass a home to their kids, and kids could keep that low tax base even if they didn't live in the home. But there are some nuances to that, correct?
That's correct. The trade-off in Proposition 19 for allowing people 55 and older to go anywhere in the state and do it multiple times, up to 3 times, was the inheritance piece. Like you said, it used to be I pass away and I send my property to my children. They could just take the property tax base regardless of whether they live in that house or not. If they wanted to rent it out, they could keep that low property tax base. Now, the difference is that you have to make it your primary residence if it's inherited for up to 1 year in order to keep the low tax base.
Right.
So that's the difference. And there's one other piece, is if they decide to sell the property, which is what a lot of people do. They inherit the home and they have a home already, so they're going to take the benefits of their parents' hard work and toiling to give them a property that has no mortgage on it and gives them all kinds of money in their pockets. But you have to look at what it's going to cost you in property taxes when you sell. So talk about the example. The property sells for over $1 million. You get to pay the difference between $1 million and whatever it sells for in what would be essentially a supplemental tax on Prop 19. So you'll pay whatever the difference is up to $1 million. So if you have an assessed home at $600,000 and you sell it for $1,500,000, you're going to pay $500,000 in new property taxes that you wouldn't have done under the previous situation.
Okay.
So you get a bill.
Yeah.
And you get a bill months later because, again, the county, and I don't understand why the county takes so long. I mean, even on the reassessed value for supplemental taxes, you buy a home in October, you don't see it till March that you get a supplemental bill. It's like 6 months.
It's all over the map too, because even I've said it could take up to 6 months, and then some clients have received it like 4 weeks later, and then some have taken the full 6 months. So it's, I don't know, and maybe it's based on the amount of closings at the time, but
I don't know.
it seems like that is definitely a snail's pace.
Yeah, it just takes forever to get the reassessment. And you would think they'd want to get it in as quickly as possible. It's revenue to not just the state, but to the county itself too. So,
and I think that even though we're talking about property taxes, it would be important to mention the fact that a living trust is extremely important to make sure this process of the parent to child transfer happens smoothly without triggering probate and all the additional expenses that go along with that as well.
Yeah, and we've talked about that, and the probate piece that's a year delay. It could be up to a year delay before you could actually sell the property. Yeah, and then you have fees with probate fees and everything else. But living trust is so vital that everyone, if you don't have one, you should absolutely get a living trust set up. And we have people we could send you to, or maybe perhaps someone you have, so we could recommend. We could keep sending you or someone you love to our client base.
Absolutely.
But it's just so vital that you have a living trust. It just makes the transition so much smoother. So whether you're downsizing for retirement or thinking about leaving your property for your kids, Proposition 19 changed the game. So you just have to be aware, and the people who are inheriting probably have to be aware of what's going to happen with the taxes when it comes due.
Right.
So.
No, I think, and that's one of the things that we do in meeting with the family, is walking them through and making sure that they're prepared with what that looks like.
Yeah. And like we were talking about with the living trust, this isn't just tax planning, it's legacy planning. It's what happens after you pass, what happens, so everyone has ease of the transfer of these properties and being able to know what to do. Whether I sell, do I rent it, do I, take advantage of living in it? It's just or
you could just have my dad's plan and sell everything before you die, and I don't get to die.
Well, I mean, that's one plan. We could do a whole show on that. I'm committed to get rid of all my money. And no, but seriously, there's a whole lot that goes into it, and we don't all think about stuff like that, and then it happens, and children or siblings are left with a lot of decisions to make.
Right.
So it's helpful as a responsible parent to leave that to me to take care of it, not my daughter.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, she'll be too busy crying.
Oh. All right. Well, I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover today. We just really wanted to get some additional information. We're seeing, and you talked a little bit about this morning, that there is a big wave of either the parent to child transfer coming, or the wealth transfer is which
it's huge.
Right?
It's huge. It's coming. Baby boomers like myself. I'm the peak of the baby boom, but there's 7 years in front of me and there's 7 years behind me in the baby boomer generation. And these people are, getting to be 75 to 85 years old, and that's when the transfer starts to take place. And it's a wave. There's before, I think I don't know if it was the millennials or the Gen Xers has the next highest amount. There's 71 million baby boomers. So it's coming. There's a big wealth transfer coming. And you may even see stuff online all the time about this, but it's coming, and people should be planning. Proper planning prevents, things from going wrong. And I think it's really important that we plan. And if we could help in any way, please, sometimes even just understanding the value of your portfolio, understanding what the property's worth so you know what's coming would help your children and anybody else as well.
Well, thank you again for joining us for Wine Whine Real Estate Uncorked. Obviously, you can tell we're very passionate about helping you with your legacy planning or anything really in real estate. We've committed our life to helping our friends and clients really get top dollar in their properties and making sure they're keeping as much money as possible in their own pocket.
That's right.
So if you have any questions in regards to the items that we've talked today about, or know of anyone that could use this information, we definitely appreciate you sharing. And thanks so much. We're here to help.
Thank you.